This is Brian McCarthy's interview of my grandparents, William Smith and Margaret Harvey. Grandpa, when were you born?
I was born August 6, 1950.
And Grandma, when were you born?
April 1st, 1916.
And how many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had 2 brothers and 1 sister.
And I had 4 brothers. Let's see, yes, 4 brothers and 4 sisters.
4 brothers and 4 sisters?
That's right.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, what were your parents' occupations?
Interviews.
Do you remember what your parents' occupations were?
My father was a doorman in an exclusive apartment house in center or downtown Philadelphia.
What's a doorman?
Well, these wealthy people had apartments, and he would greet them, open their door like a chauffeur would, take their luggage, and whatever, take messages for them, or I guess it's about what you would say. I can't.
He would just chauffeur to the wealthy people?
He didn't
That's
chauffeur,
right.
no. He was
Yeah,
a doorman. It's hard to say. He was acquainted with every family in this apartment house, and if there was visitors, he was aware of the visitors to each apartment and messages.
Alright.
And he escorted them from their cars to their apartments.
Okay. And was it like how was the pay for that job?
It was a minimal salary, but tips were generous.
Oh, so he lived on like tips and stuff?
Well, he had a minimal salary, as I said, but tips
Alright.
were generous.
Okay, and your mother was
My mother was dead. My mother died when I was 5.
she died when you were 5? Okay.
Going on 6.
Pop, what were your parents' occupations?
Well, my mother was a housewife. My father, he just worked about, 1917. He was appointed to a job in City Hall, and eventually wound up in the Recorder of Deeds office in City Hall, and he worked as a Republican committeeman through the years, and he kept the job.
And he kept it all for years?
He kept that job. He had 30 years in it. He could retire, and by 1947, and they prevailed on him to stay around and work a little longer, because he was good at his job as a politician, and he decided he would.
So he stayed.
He died during that year. He never retired.
Oh, really? And do you
1948, early 48.
But that was long after the Depression.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. Yeah.
But do you remember how much he got paid? Like, do you remember?
At one point, I know in there, I can't think of it, $37.50 a week.
Really?
Yeah, with the family.
Now, was that good for back then, or was it?
It was not good. It was a little bit above minimal, I guess.
Yeah, and did your parents have trouble keeping their jobs during the Depression?
My father didn't. He was in the politics, and they kept him on his job.
My father didn't either.
Yeah.
He was not out of work. No, that I remember during the Depression, and whatever he managed to keep us in our needs. But in those days, Brian, we did not have cars. We did not have telephones. We did not have television or TVs, and all the extras that you have today. Food was cheap. That is, groceries, all groceries, and clothing was cheap, and even the transportation on trolley cars was cheap.
Alright, so it wasn't much to pay for.
No, it didn't.
Trolley cars, you'd get on a trolley car, give them 15 cents, and would pay. You could get a transfer on that, and you could ride that trolley car and transfer onto another to get into town. And you got a token besides. That one brought you home.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you got to do the same thing.
Do you remember the price of it?
I would say it
15
was
cents.
7.5 cents.
Well,
One
15
way.
cents for two.
For a round
for
trip.
2 tokens.
15 cents.
Yeah. One you use going in, one you use
That's what
coming
I'm
home from
saying,
work.
15 cents for a round trip was 7.5 cents for
Yeah.
me, like to go to
Yeah.
school.
That's pretty good. And do you remember any of the prices of like food, like
Gasoline was, at that time, gasoline was around 12 cents a gallon. A loaf of bread, what was it, Marge, 5, 7 cents?
About that.
5 or
But
7
then
cents.
a lot of people bake their own bread.
This is,
A lot of people bake their own bread.
Yeah.
How about like apples and like fruit? Like
Oh, well, apples were very cheap. People bought them by the peck. And then the truth of the matter is people did stand on the corner selling apples for 10 cents a piece.
during the Depression.
Yes.
Did you ever buy from them?
Myself, I didn't. I don't remember, at least. My brother worked in a grocery store, and he had a job where he had an express wagon, and he would deliver groceries. And he also had a paper route. And he put his money in the local bank, and the banks closed. They all folded.
went up.
They went up as they.
So he lost all of his
He
money?
lost all his money. It was in his teens. With every cent he saved.
Do you guys remember any of your high school jobs? Like, do you remember your jobs around high school?
Well,
Your
I'll
first
tell you,
job?
when I graduated from high school, it was in 1934 from Roman Catholic High School, and there were no jobs. I went out daily, walking. You had no transportation. I mean, you did it all by one foot. You had to. You walked into town for a job. And all you do is get a promise, oh, we're going to, you'd hear they're hiring here, or they're hiring there, and you walk great distances to get to these places. And all I do is
Take
pass
your
you
name.
through and chase you home, or
Take
take
your
your
name.
name. Just take your name, that's all. You got nothing, absolutely.
And it wouldn't hire you?
They couldn't.
So you never had any job?
During the,
Like during high school or before high school, you didn't have any little job?
no, nothing,
No,
absolutely nothing.
The only,
Worked for the corner grocer when he would get his order in, and some kid that was around, myself included, occasionally, whoever was right there available at the time, would get the job of taking the groceries down, from cases of grocery, into his basement, or bring some up into the store, and you'd work 2.5, 3 hours, and he'd give you 15 cents. And you were happy to get the 15 cents.
Really?
That's right.
People were happy to get them?
and I used to run errands for older people, and women would say, send me to the drugstore to get medicines, or to a butcher shop to stand in line for maybe half an hour, and or to a grocery store, or to a bakery, or to a restaurant to buy. She was forever buying double crabs. Maybe I'd have 5 errands, and I would be lucky to get 15 cents.
Really?
5 errands. It would take me all afternoon, from the time I come home from school till 6 o'clock at night.
And you would be happy with the 15 cents?
Exactly.
That's good.
5 cents an errand.
That's
That's the truth. That's the truth. No matter how far you had to walk, or how long you had to wait, you got 5 cents for every errand. And that was all I ever had in high school. I never made a cent. My 2 brothers both worked paper routes and grocery stores and gave me spending money.
Really? Were you allowed to keep the 15 cents, or did you have to give
Oh, I
it
was
to the family?
No, I would keep and go to the movies on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
That's about
Is
it.
that what you did, Pop?
Well, I'll tell you, when I finally got a job, it was in 1936.
How many years out of high school was that?
I was 2 years out of high school. I was 2 years out of work. Absolutely. Got a job, my first one, got a job for Christmas in a manufacturing jeweler. And I used to sit there, and they had some kind of a concoction they mixed up in boiling water or something. They'd put different stuff in. I don't remember what it was, it's too far back. But they'd put it in there, and it would bring all the gloss back to this jewelry. They were getting it, instead of buying new jewelry, they'd pay this cheap price for this
A
jewelry.
Get the old stuff.
Get it all shined up.
It was
Out of a bag.
sort of a refinish.
Yeah,
wasn't
do
it?
it was, yeah.
And that was your first job?
That was the
Yeah.
first job, and that was 5 hours a week.
$5 a week?
5 hours a week.
For
when I
5
started.
days, so $1 a day?
For 5 days. And I hung on to that one till after Christmas. I lasted through January, but then he let me go after January, and I was out of work for a while. An advertising agency opened up on Cherry Street in Philadelphia, 1000 Cherry, and I went to work there. A friend of my sister's got me the job. she was working in that place. And I worked there, and I worked 47 hours a week. 6 days, 47 hours, and my starting pay was $6 a week.
$6 a week?
For 47 hours.
That's
I can remember it well.
And, like, did you have to give that into the family?
Well, it wasn't a matter of you had to, it's a matter you did.
You did?
You automatically did, because they had nothing at home. I mean, it wasn't that much. My father didn't make enough, and wasn't the money to help.
Did all your brothers and sisters have jobs? Did, like, everybody work?
Well, eventually, Joe was the longest one out of work. He was out a lot longer than me.
How old was he? Was he, like,
He was,
older than you?
He was what? Let me see. Kay was 1 year older than me, and Joe was 2.5 years older than me.
2.5 years?
Yeah.
Did he go to high school?
Joe he went to high school at the Northeast Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about college? Did any of your friends or anything go on to college?
We used to look at those. There were pretty buildings we went by once in a while. That's about all.
You didn't know anybody who really went?
No. Well, out of high school, there were fellas, the basketball team went. I remember that. There were the famous Mighty Mites, McManaman, Gugas, Buck, Kenny, and Beitenmiller. Roman, but they were great. They were great. They beat Penn Fresh that year. High school team. Roman.
What kind of neighborhoods did you guys grow up in?
Our neighborhood was a mixed.
Process of changing.
Well, hadn't changed yet, but it was all white neighborhood at the time. But it wasn't ethnic. It was a combination of Germans, Jews, Irish, in my neighborhood.
Really? And was it like a rich, like what kind of neighborhood? Was it all beat up houses?
No, it was not. It wasn't extremely poor, or were they even considered middle class. It was just
hard-working immigrants.
Yeah, that's about
what it was.
Yeah.
Like her father came over from Ireland. He was a doorman.
They were
he made his living.
very clean and very proud. Everybody used to clean the fronts of their houses every weekend. For instance, it was unheard of not to scrub down your steps and your porch and your railings,
your pavement,
and the whole bit.
Really, you'd scrub it down. Like, would you have to do that? Was that
soap
like a
and
household job?
And you'd put brass on your doorknobs. You'd shine them all every Saturday. They're all shined up.
Yeah.
Like, what other household jobs were there? Like, what were your jobs during the week or every day?
I had more jobs than the average because I had no mother, and I used to come home from the local school and hang the laundry every time we had to we sent our laundry into a we sent it out and had it dropped off, and the man would drop the big bag of damp wash on the porch, and I would haul it in and bring it to the backyard and hang up the wash and go back to school.
Oh, some man would wash your laundry for you?
Yeah, it was a laundry
service.
Business. Oh, it was
a laundry service. We didn't have. I don't think we had a washer at the time. I don't remember. I don't believe we had a washer at the time. We had a laundry service. And then my father used to send shirts to a Chinese in the neighborhood somewhere. I can't remember.
On York Street.
Yeah, he did the whole neighborhood sent their shirts to this Chinese person to be ironed,
Oh, and he would iron it all.
Clean and iron them.
Because he had to wear clean shirts. So my brothers had to wear shirts to school.
They had starched heavy collars, probably.
Really? And he would have to take care of that? Like, was the laundry service expensive?
No.
It was like 50 cents.
No, it was $1 for so many pounds. I can't remember exactly.
But
Was the laundry bag full? Maybe it could have been from the floor to the table.
I mean, you didn't have to struggle to get your clothes washed or anything. It wasn't that expensive.
What do you mean? I didn't do the wash. They did it.
No, I'm saying, but you didn't have to struggle to pay for it or anything. It wasn't that.
Oh,
bad.
the $1? No, it wasn't.
$1, you missed it.
Oh, sure.
But it
was necessary.
a lot to you, that $1, but
It was
Oh,
necessary.
it's just one of the necessities.
Sure. We didn't have a washer. We sent it to a laundry service, and it paid $1 a week for a bag of laundry.
Were you the oldest in your family?
I was the oldest girl.
So
My
you
sister.
had to take care of all that.
I had to take care of those things: cooking and shopping and laundry, and generally household.
what happened with Grandmom is her 2 brothers and her younger sister went to St. Columbus School. But because she was the oldest girl and she had to take care of the house, she had to go to the local public school because she would get home earlier and get their lunch, clean up after they went back to St. Columbus, and she'd run up the street to the
She'd have
public
to
school.
run to her own school.
Yeah, she had.
I was the only one that had the permission. I remember that so well. coming out of the building and nobody else.
Oh, you were the
myself.
only one that had the school's permission?
Yeah, because I lived like a half a block away, and it was necessary. My father needed me to come home to take care of the laundry and
His
go
wife
to
was
the
dead.
local grocer on the corner, pick up food for the next meal, etc.
Really?
But see, he worked all night, and his job was like for years and years. He would go in about 6 o'clock in the evening till 6 in the morning. It was nothing.
12 hours?
It was nothing for him to work 12 hours
That's
every
right.
night. Every night.
Were you nervous during the Depression about him losing his
No,
job?
I wasn't nervous at all. I can't remember being upset in the least about my father's job. It was very secure. He
That
was
was really-
very well liked. In fact, he got me a job not too long after I was out of high school. I got out of high school. It was a few months after I was out of high school. He was well liked, as I said, by the people where he worked for, and wealthy people in this apartment house. They knew the owner of a company, and the owner of the company told him, yes, he would see that I got a job. But I went to the office where I was told to go, and the office manager, he took me on, but he said to me, I'm only taking you on trial. In other words, he resented being told to hire me
Oh, really?
by the president. Yes, he resented it. And he said, you have to prove yourself, and so forth. So I went to business school at night for about 6 months.
And what was
I
it?
stayed after work every night and went to a business school just to improve myself.
Was the school free? The
No.
business
Oh,
I had
yeah,
to pay.
you gotta pay for it.
Out of my salary.
Really? And
Okay.
what did he have to do with this job?
I was a secretary.
You were a secretary?
Yeah, take dictation and typing and.
There were typewriters and stuff?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
It's very good.
And I went to that business school to further my, well, whatever, and I learned stenotype, which they use in the courts, you know.
Yeah. What's that, like shorthand?
Yeah.
Just a-
Well, it's something like that.
All right.
But anyway, that's what I did, and I got paid pretty good though, I must say. My first job, I got
Now-
$18
$18?
a week.
That is pretty
That's
good.
where I started. $18 a week.
Pop, what were your household jobs and stuff?
Me?
Yeah.
Well,
Just as a
I had
kid?
my brothers. Jim was the oldest, and he was crippled. He had contacted infantile paralysis in 1911, and left him with one leg that was just like a bone hanging down there, and the other leg was a mountain.
Why, it was really built?
all of his strength went to the good leg, but he was he was a crippled fellow on the one leg, and he didn't get too many jobs. I mean, we couldn't ask him to do it, but my mother divided up like on a Saturday, every Saturday. Somebody got the yard to clean, somebody got the basement to clean. It would be Mark, Joe, myself. Tommy had died. He was my fourth brother. Jim, Mark, Joe lived. I was next, and then Tommy died. He was 1 year younger than I.
How did he die?
1918. He died in the flu epidemic.
The flu, and did you know a lot of people who died from that?
I didn't know. I was too young to be involved in that, but I was only 3 or 4 years old at the time. 3 years old, and there was an awful lot. That was so bad, the flu epidemic of 1918, that they actually took the seminarians out of St. Charles and sent them to the Catholic cemeteries, which were, I guess, Holy Cross and Holy Sepulchre at the time. Probably others, I can't remember. And they were digging the graves. People were
The
dying so
seminarians
fast,
were?
the seminarians had to dig their graves.
Yeah, back then, I guess the graves were dug by hand. And
Mhm.
That's right, they were all done by hand. It was all done
weren't
by
there a
hand.
lot of job openings at the cemetery then? For people doing that?
But there wasn't money to pay them.
There didn't no money to pay them. That's the thing. They
See,
couldn't take
people
them.
buried.
And what happened? There were so many people dying that even the grave diggers were dying.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they took these young men out of the seminary and they actually dug the graves.
And how was this flu epidemic? What was it? How did it start? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you. I mean, once again, I was too young to realize.
too.
But
I have no recollection of it at all.
Would your parents tell you? Did I ever tell you how
No.
nervous they were or whatever
yeah.
about it?
They told you, but I don't know what. I can't remember. They had so many problems that they didn't bother telling you
It
those
wasn't
things.
any worse, just
Life was a horrible thing at that time. It really was. It was tough. It was tough living. We think it was tough for us. Our parents had it worse.
Yeah.
Her father he had to do it all by himself.
Yeah, without a
The
woman.
wife, his wife
Hey,
died in
well,
1922,
And what year were you born?
1916.
I was just going on 6.
Yeah.
But then he had help. He did have to have help. He had my grandmother, but she only lasted a short time. She wasn't able to handle it. And he brought my cousin B home from Ireland.
That was the best thing.
She was 18.
God bless her.
And she was 11 years older than me. And she made a happy home for us.
Really?
Yeah.
Ha-
That's
like-
the one I used to go visiting down there
Yeah.
in Wilmington for
Yeah.
90th year. She was in a home here.
I remember.
Yeah.
How did your mom die? Do you remember what that?
It was pneumonia and kidney failure. And I don't know which was first. I believe it was pneumonia, and she was supposed to have been getting improved or getting better. And
No idea how bad it was at that time. Marge's father, Pop Harvey, got a call. You didn't have a phone in your house, as your mom told you. You had to go down to the local drugstore. The little girls went to your local drugstore, and then they would send somebody up to get you, and you had to give that kid a nickel or something for coming up and get you. And you had to walk all the way down the street to where the drugstore was, and he answered the phone. We got a call, he answered the phone. They said to him, "Your wife is all right now. Come in and get her."
Oh, really?
He went home, dressed, went down 2 blocks down from the street there to Dorfin Street, got on the trolley car, rode down, and when he got to the hospital, his wife was dead.
They told him she was alright.
She was
and then
doing
when he
good,
got there,
and when he got there, she was dead.
did they lie to her, or
No.
she just
No.
they thought she was alright, and it was?
That was in a very good
Pardon me?
hospital.
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was the night before he got the phone call to come the next day and pick her up, take her home. And he did. Without any further phone call, he went. And that overnight she took a turn for the worst, went to kidney failure, and died. Just like that.
Just like that. Like, were you guys? You didn't go with them? Like,
Well, they were all too young.
you were all too young.
I don't
You
even
gotta
remember my mother.
Who had to watch you guys? Just somebody. He just got babysitter.
I don't know. I don't remember. I have no idea. I don't remember my mother. I have no
Yeah,
recollection.
none at all.
None at all.
Do you remember like the funeral or anything? Nothing at all.
Nothing. I was told I tried to climb in the coffin.
Oh, really?
I was told that afterward. Well, see, those days, Brian, they had the viewings in the home.
Oh, at your own house?
Yeah. And they used to hang a crepe on the door where there was a death in the family, you know. If it was a young person, it was a white crepe. If it was an older person, it was a black crepe. But I have no recollection of the death or the funeral. Even afterward, my mind is vague. I can't recollect anything except my grandmother being there for a short time.
Oh, really?
And it wasn't
Like, how long was a short time? Just a couple years?
Oh, I don't think she was there about a year and a half at the very most, if not, something like that.
Louder.
But see, because my father absolutely had to have somebody, she was there because he was working night work, and my sister was 1 year old.
Oh, really?
Father John Harvey,
Yeah.
at that time, he was 3. He was only 3 years old.
And my father sent him out to stay with his sister who lived out near Pittsburgh.
And he sent her all the way out there?
He sent him out there. He was there from the time he was 3 till he was, maybe it was 4, I don't know. Till he was 2 years at least. They came back in time to go to school.
Your houses were both in Philadelphia, right?
Right?
And how long, like, how much did it cost to go from Philadelphia out to Pittsburgh?
I have no idea, Brian. All I know is
Much.
my father had one of his brother take him out there. He couldn't do it. And his brother took him, you know, I remember him walking down the street with a little banging and saying he was going to the country. You know, I always remember that. That's one of the recollections I have. He kept saying, "I'm going to the country, I'm going to the country." Carrying his little satchel.
Really? He was
And he
angry or
was
something?
pigeon-toed, and he had this little satchel on his arm, and he said, "I'm going to the country, I'm going to the country." And with my Uncle Jimmy, took him down to the trolley, took him down to the train station, wherever it was, I don't know, and took him out to Pittsburgh.
And then, like, how long
it
were
was
you away
Altoona,
from it?
really, if you ever heard of Altoona. That's where he lived.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
It's out near Pittsburgh. And he was there for about 2.5 years. Because There's no way my father could handle, you know.
Then who was the other one? The one
Brother Jim. My brother Jim was a year and a half older than me, and he's the one that worked in the avenues and paper routes, etc. He brought in the extra change to our home. Let's put it that way. He's the one.
He used to give grandmom and her
money.
sister spending money.
Yeah.
See, they didn't have any money. Father John got a job in there, and he was younger than Jim. But Jimmy and John did get jobs. So the girls couldn't, and they could never have any money. So he would give them. Jimmy would always give them.
My brother Jim
spending
used
money.
to give me spending money for.
He spent his up with
Yeah.
them. In other words, what he did.
And like, what would you do with the spending money? Just
Well,
Go to the movies
go
and
to
buy
movies.
makeup.
Really?
Like having a teenager, you know.
that was all there really was.
Yep, that's all.
Like the movies, was it like all crowded
10
and
cents.
stuff? 10 cents?
10 cents.
That's right.
You get in a movie on a Saturday afternoon.
It wasn't color. It was just black and white.
You mean, oh yes.
No, there
it
was
was
no-
silent
no,
picture
no.
then.
Oh,
That was
wasn't-
silent pictures. That's right.
It was silent, and I
I-
can't remember the year the Tobies came in, but it was in the early 30s, I think, wasn't it?
It was late 20s, I'll tell you. I don't know.
can't remember.
But I remember the first one I ever saw was Al Jolson and the jazz singer.
Mhm.
I think that was the name of it.
Yeah.
Al Jolson. He
Mhm.
was-
But that was you know, we didn't consider ourselves living through a hardship.
Are you considered just normal?
Yes, because everybody else was in the same building.
Everybody around you.
That's right. Everybody was
Like
poor.
I
so
said,
it was
everybody was-
fashionable.
I mean,
Just who?
everybody was proud and everybody was clean. I mean clean. Cleanliness was next to godliness for sure. In those
Really?
days when we were growing up. Yep.
Like, do you guys remember any of the music or like? I think the 20s was the jazz age, wasn't it? Like, did you guys
The
listen to
roaring
jazz?
20s.
Mm.
Grew up through them. But Al Jolson was probably the big singer of the time. I tell you, he was the first movie that I heard a talkie. He sang in it. Sonny Boy, he sang a song called Sonny Boys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And that was the first movie that talked.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the first talkie.
Do you remember what year it was?
I'm not sure. I think it was either late 20s or early 30s.
Like during the Depression, it was.
Right in the middle of the Depression.
It was, the first thing I remember about radio was, we didn't have one, but our neighbor had one, and he had earphones. And he was the only one who could hear this, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't have a speaker, the first radio.
Oh, it didn't?
No.
You had to have earphones?
You had to have earphones. Mm-hmm.
That's right.
I
Like
guess,
our first radio, my father made.
He made it?
He got the instructions from somebody, and he built the radio.
Did it work good? Like, do you remember?
Yeah, we could go crazy. You move the cat's whisker. There was a little lever on there,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
was called the cat's whisker. And you move the cat's whisker over, and boy, you could go crazy. You get KDKA Pittsburgh.
Really?
Then you went wild, Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah, 'cause you're hearing all
KDKA.
the way from out there.
Yeah, picked it up from Pittsburgh.
Like, what did they play on the radio?
Oh, there was an awful lot of little drama, half-hour
with
drama
comedy
things.
stuff,
It was
more or
all
less.
Comedy,
Amos and
drama.
Andy.
Yeah, yep.
Would be one. And they were very
Through the
popular.
years, we had Sunday nights. It was a great one, but Father Coughlin's hour was on. He was the first, I guess, of our priests that really got national recognition and that type of thing. He used to make a broadcast. What do you call that hour, Marge?
I don't know, was it Catholic Hour or what it was, Bill?
Something.
I
I
don't
forget what
remember
it was
myself.
called. I really do. But he was from Royal Oak, Michigan, and he'd broadcast from Royal Oak every Sunday night. In fact, Milton Berle was on. He was trying to compete with him later on.
Really? Oh, it was
Milton
too-
Berle went from a comedian to a preacher, trying to get.
Trying to compete with the priest.
He couldn't beat Father Coughlin.
Popularity. He was very
He
popular.
was very, very popular.
But it was mostly two people, a skit, you know, back and forth discussing
Amos
something
and Andy.
like that. I mean, it was humorous.
Did, like, everybody have radios? Everybody in your neighborhood? Did, like, anybody just come over because they never
Well,
radio?
things like ours. Our first was built by our father. Not everybody had them. Not everybody,
Not
had,
everybody had them
no,
yet? So
no,
you had it pretty early?
We had it pretty early, yeah.
We didn't. I can't remember when we got a radio. I can't even recollect.
But, like, what was it? Was it, like, a plug-in or was it run by batteries? How did it work?
It was,
Had a plug-in.
oh yeah, it was,
Yeah,
but see,
yeah, it was electric.
we
because
didn't
it caught
have
fire one
electricity
time.
Really?
until I was, let's say, I was maybe 8, 10, 12, before we had electricity. We had gas. light.
You had gas light?
That's
Yeah,
why we didn't
that's
have
right,
that's why we
yes.
didn't have a washer. We had no place. No, we didn't have electricity. We
Somebody-
had gas light.
What you do
Yeah.
is you'd stay here, and the lights were little nails they had, about this big, and they would light up with the gas in there, right? Like them.
Yeah.
And you had to watch yourself, because if you used too much gas, your quarter in the gas meter, they had a meter down the basement. You put a quarter in there and give you your gas.
Oh, you'd have to put the money.
Oh, you had to put that
you'd
quarter
have to put it
in.
in up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like a payphone now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, you
right,
had to do it
that's
up
right.
front.
That's what it was.
That's right. And so I can't remember even when we got electricity. And that's why we didn't have a washer. There was nothing to plug in. Didn't have a radio. No place to plug in these things. Iron. Used to heat the iron on the stove.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd have to heat it up on the
My
gas.
mother
here.
had a washer, Ryan. It was an ugly wooden thing with wooden legs like this, and the top was open, and you'd throw the clothes in, your soap suds and all,
And should I
and
wash
it had a
it?
big wheel, and we used to, as boys,
Turns.
because that's the only way it could work. It wasn't no electricity or anything, right?
With manual.
Now, when you were through, then you had to wring them out by hands. Get rid of the water, wring them out by hands, and then you put them through the ringer. The ringer, they call it. The ringer was a much smaller handle on a little thing here, and it had two wheels. And you'd wind these two wheels to turn, and you start the clothes in, and it would wind, push them out the other side.
Push them out the
You
other
had to
side.
catch them out the other side, put them aside, put another piece in, and dry them. Then they went on the line.
Really?
Yeah.
It was like a long, how long?
process.
Long process and stuff.
That's why we had a laundry service.
Oh yeah, you
And
think
then-
they go
and
through
then-
that?
No, we didn't
and then
go through
it was,
that.
in those days, there was the horse and wagon. In fact, even the fire engines were pulled by horses.
Really?
As a matter of fact, my grandfather, early in the century, worked on the trolley cars. Had a horse pull the trolley car.
Ah,
A horse
that's
pulled the
pretty
trolley.
fun.
But they did. Milkman, the bread man, the ice man, you name it, everything. Horse-drawn, right, Marge? Everything was horse-drawn.
The funerals are also,
Pulled by horses there.
people,
The
there's
funerals.
nothing to pay a funeral on a trolley car.
Funerals used to be taken to the cemetery on trolley car, on
Really?
a certain trolley car, yeah.
That's pretty crazy. They say that they got a lot of people blame the Depression on Hoover.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, they did. Hoover was in, and he had a Democratic Congress complete, right?
Yeah.
And no matter what he wanted to do, they wouldn't do.
Oh, alright.
They let him sink deeper and deeper, and they won by it. But there was one thing about the whole election. It was Al Smith and Herbert Hoover.
Yeah.
And they, as I told you, it got very religious and nasty through it. And the nicest thing that happened is that Al Smith lost. Because if Al Smith won, he'd have run into this depression. And they'd have blamed it all on the Catholic Church.
Oh, really?
That's right.
So for us, it
were-
ended up being better anyway.
It was the best thing that could happen. They would do anything.
Brian, what I wanted to say, my opinion was, we had the Depression through my teens, and I was 18 when I believe it started to ease up a little bit. And you know what I think helped?
What?
The end of prohibition.
The end of yeah.
That helped a little. But actually, we did not come out of the Depression. We did not get out of it, because when anybody tells you this, we didn't get out until World War II. World
right.
War II
World
took
War
us
II
out.
helped.
That's right.
And do you remember what Hoovervilles were?
Hmm?
Do you remember what Hoovervilles were? They're
Mhm.
like, they said they were like all homeless people lined up outside like Washington D.C.
Oh, they went down there. They stormed the place for what did they try to get the bonus army? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
The bonus
yeah.
army, yeah. And the bonus army was a bunch of guys got together and they load them all over the country. And they stormed. They all camped out on the grounds around the White House
Yeah.
and demanded a bonus.
So that's just what they were.
What was it they formed to give men work on the road? What was it called?
3 C's. There was CCC camp. I think it was more political. You had political pull. I do know this. If you had political pull, you could go into Saruja, put that in. The Civilian Conservation Corps.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's 3 C's they call it. And you could get in there and they would make projects like there was up Monomoy City, Joe Gothi tells me, they had this creek run down the middle of the street.
Really?
What they wanted to do was get rid of it. So his first couple of months, all he did was pick up rocks on the streets.
Just for the CCC?
And that's what they were doing. They went through that there and cleaned up, and they did do some good things. They really did.
It was road building,
And there was, what else, CCCs and...
road improvement, it was more or less.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember, like, did you vote for Franklin D. Roosevelt?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Pooh.
Nah.
I wouldn't
I
vote for him.
can't remember, I'll tell you the truth.
I could never stand. When I was 1936, I was of age, and I voted against him.
Oh, you voted against him? Who did you vote
I
for?
think I voted for Alf Landon. I think that's who was running. I think it was Alf Landon. He
I
was,
voted for Roosevelt.
Oh, you did vote for Roosevelt? But then he set up all these jobs and stuff. And then you say that we didn't get out of the Depression until World War II?
We were not out of the Depression until until World War II, 41.
How do you think
Late
that helped?
Huh?
How do you think that helped?
No, they went away to start building ships.
Oh,
Everybody
yeah.
went to work in shipyards and to all the places.
That's
Everything was the clothing for the men in arms. Everything, all of them. After all,
That's when the women went to work in the factories.
Really?
that's when women really left their home. World War II.
World War II,
Yeah.
why they left home to complete
That's right.
guys, please.
They got all the jobs. Oh, they had to.
Pop, you were in World War II. Where were you stationed?
Well, I'll tell you, I was in 1941. I was drafted and sent to Camp Pendleton, Virginia, from Fort Meade down to Camp Pendleton, and I stayed in Pendleton until November. We went down on the thing down in North Carolina. What the devil do they call it? You know, all these soldiers get together and maneuvers. We had maneuvers in North Carolina. And they pulled us out. As soon as the maneuvers, we were building things down there. We went early. We built things. As soon as the maneuvers started, right, we were pulled out and sent back to our camp in Pendleton. And we got our guns. We had the 155 millimeter rifle and the long range shots, 16 miles of fire. And anyway, we cleaned them all up, got them all ready, and in late November, we sent them out to the West Coast, and we were going to follow them.
You followed
They got them started. We were going to follow them. And December come along, and Roosevelt decided we were going. We were hot. Our guns had already started out, and we were going. And Roosevelt decided that no draftees would go overseas until after the New Year. So they'll give you Christmas and New Year at home, right? Which was a good deal. However, on December the 6th, I bought my train ticket home. December the 7th, the Japs hit Pearl Harbor. I was there. Actually, what happened is we were so well prepared, ready, right, at that particular time. We were immediately sent. We were the first convoy to leave the States after World War II started. The first soldiers to leave.
You mean after
I was
Pearl
in-
Harbor?
You guys were
Pearl
the
Harbor.
first ones out there? Is that where you went? Right to Hawaii?
No, but actually, we pulled into Pearl Harbor Christmas Eve of 41, and we sat from 7 o'clock in the morning until 7:30 at night. They were having all these meetings in Pearl Harbor, trying to determine where they could get some ships to take us down. We were actually MacArthur's replacements.
Really?
He had been looking for a replacement, you know, and begging them for it.
Like, were you scared?
Huh?
Were you scared for
I
all
was too scared to know if I was, I'll tell you the
really?
truth. Being honest, I wasn't too happy about it all.
You're with
But-
in the same place.
Yeah, all you do is you keep going. You follow the guy in front of you.
Yeah.
He's just as
Yeah.
scared as you are.
That's right.
Anyway,
You're all the
what
same.
happened is our guns were shipped in December, right?
Okay.
Beginning of December, late November. They were shipped from California. Well, when we got to Pearl Harbor, our ships were on the bottom. They got sunk at Pearl Harbor.
Your ships got sunk?
No, our artillery, all our artillery, all went down with the ship. The ship that had our stuff on it. Yeah, got sunk. And
Oh, no thanks.
so then they had the whole day. They're trying to deliberate what to do with us. They can't send us down. They finally decided that at 7:30 at night, they took us off and put us on there. We went out to Kaneohe Base, Kaneohe Naval Air Station, and we become harbor defenses of Kaneohe Bay.
Is that what
We were based there for a while, and then we made a couple trips down. Our only invasion was down in the Gilbert Islands, That was it.
That was
Yeah.
Graham, what did you do during World War II? Like, wow.
To help, you mean? Okay, I continue to work, and we used to have this USO, I believe it was called,
Yep.
canteens, and it was like they'd publish a spot where they bring the soldiers from different places all over the country would be just because they were being shipped out, but they would be like a stopover. And we would be there to entertain them. Anybody would you volunteered, and you served,
Little girls would go and they would serve them sodas.
serve them refreshments and dance with them, and they had like a jukebox type of thing. And you didn't know these people, but it was like a hospitality setup.
Yeah.
And it would maybe go for 2 hours on a Friday night from 7 to 9, and that was the end of it. And then the servicemen, whether they were sailors or army, would have to go back to their own
Back to their
barracks
base.
or whatever place,
Their base.
their base or their barracks or whatever. And I also helped out with the Red Cross and rolled bandages
Really? For the Army men?
for the servicemen.
Was
We
it-
didn't know it was Army or Navy, but it was someplace in the center city. I can't remember. Some few blocks from where I worked. After work, instead of coming home, I'd go there and work on bandages.
And it was all volunteer?
And that was all volunteer.
A lot of that stuff was going on.
A lot of that, all volunteer work and stuff.
Yeah,
I never
hospitality
saw
work
them.
and wrapping bandages. About what?
I was going.
You were away, they were doing it for you. Alright, that's pretty much all. Just to sum it up, like, how do you think my lifestyle, like you guys know my lifestyle now, how is it different than when you were 16?
Well, I'll tell you something. You people are a lot more wiser, and a lot more. You have so much more than we did at that time. We had a minimum. Truth
Yeah.
was, we did have a minimum, and there's no comparison to what you have. I think even your schools have better teachers than all.
Really?
I really think they do.
I think it's a lot better now.
You had much more advantages, and
Well,
especially in education.
You've heard the salaries that we tell you.
Yeah.
What could you really do with it?
That's true.
You couldn't do a thing. There was no way of ever saving anything. I mean, you lived from payday to payday. That's all it was. You usually broke at the end of the week.
I'll tell you, there was very few people who had money in the bank. My brother was one of them.
Really?
He lost it,
And he
yeah.
lost it?
Yeah.
So people who did have money
Yeah.
lost it anyway.
No, there wasn't money. People didn't have the money. They had bank accounts maybe, and they would put money away maybe to buy a house, and within a year they'd draw it out, that kind of thing.
Well, when the Depression first hit, when her brother had his money in that bank,
Yeah.
there was one up on Lehigh Avenue,
Yeah,
a
it was
bank there,
It was in North
and it went
Philadelphia.
up.
Yeah.
Really?
And I'll
That
tell
was
you,
the expression.
everybody
Yeah,
that had a penny in that bank, they lost it all.
Everybody,
Yeah, the
Everybody
expression was
lost
it
it.
went up.
You know something?
That was it.
The bank went up.
really?
You know something?
What?
There was a man, Greenfield, I think it was, that had that bank.
Mhm.
And actually, Greenfield and his wife got their money out of that bank.
Oh, they knew
They
it
are
was
the
coming?
only ones.
Mhm.
Oh,
Because you would see
That's
people standing in line for half a day, waiting to see if bank doors would open, and they would.
And they would never
You
open.
know what I mean? Everything they had was in there. That's what their whole future was. They put in that bank.
And they just lost
So
it.
I went home.
Gone. Nobody ever got any money out of it.
Oh, well, I guess that's how it all started.
Difficult
Yeah.
times.
Mhm.
Yep.
It wasn't actually easy. It really wasn't.
No. But we weren't for hunger or anything like that. It was no.
Yeah, it wasn't that
No, we managed.
big. You guys
know.
got lucky.
Yeah, we were able to stretch the dollar. Let's put it that way, Brian.
I
And I
remember-
guess it's something that stays with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, I guess.
But I've heard people say to me the same, well, if some of these kids today had to live through the Depression, they would know what it means to stretch a dollar, or don't be so free with your money and so forth.
Money was scarce in my house. Just tell you this real fast. Money was very scarce in my home all the way through, right?
Yes.
So, and one of the funny thing was, and to me later on, I used to laugh and wonder why. But every Sunday morning, my mother would send me in the corner grocery store, Jewish fellow Jake Fennell, and we'd get a dime, and they'd give me 10 pennies. And every kid going to church got 1 penny to put in church. That's right? So they get a penny going to church. Later on, I said to my mother, "Why did you do that?" I said, "Why did you give a penny? What's that going to do?" And she said, "Well, it didn't do the church any good." She said, "But it taught you to give."
That's good.
I said, "Right." So she said she was teaching us to give.
Get the habit.
That is good, even though you didn't have much.
Yeah, with the habit of
Give
giving.
what I give.
Right, even if you
Give
don't
some.
have, give. So,
Alright, that's pretty much.
is that cover pretty much
Okay,
what you
that's
wanted?
the end.
Mhm.
Alright.